Hey everybody, stick around because today we're going to talk about lessons learned from the COVID pandemic. Thanks for clicking on this video. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Instead of any product reviews, unboxings, things like that, we're going to talk a little bit about things that I, as a prepper, learned during the COVID pandemic this year. 2020 has been an unprecedented year. There's probably not many, if any, people left that were around for the last pandemic that hit the United States back in the early 20th century. So this is something that we are all learning together as we go, and it's been a unique experience, and it's been something that we've learned a lot of lessons from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of the things that I have personally learned. Now, a lot of these will be useful to other preppers. Some of them will actually be useful to people who are not into prepping or have taken an interest in it since the onset of the pandemic. So we're almost to the end of 2020. It's Christmas week. My family and I are staying at a cabin at a beautiful Tennessee State Park for the first part of the week, and then we're going to go back home for Christmas here in a bit. But while we were here, I wanted to do this review as 2020 comes to a close. They're not in any particular kind of order. They're simply some things that I've been documenting throughout the year so that looking back on them, I might be able to pass on a little bit of wisdom. So point number one is that what we are going through right now is probably the most likely scenario for a long-term disaster that we as a nation or even globally may face. You know, most people think of an SHTF situation as being a global meltdown or some kind of societal shutdown. And truth be told, I'm not a doomsday prepper. I'm a disaster prepper. I don't believe that we need to all be ready because society is going to collapse and we're all going to go full on Mad Max. I honestly don't believe that it's a realistic scenario to expect that society is going to collapse and there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to be holed up in bunkers just existing. So what I prepare for, what I prepare my family for, is things like what we're dealing with right now. You know, the thing is, this whole pandemic has been kind of like a zombie apocalypse, but Walmart and Starbucks are still open. So it's like apocalypse light. Now, if you've ever watched any of the doomsday prepper shows, there's always that one guy that says, you know, in the event of a disaster, I'm just going to go take from other people. I'm going to go raid my neighbors and I'm going to take the things that they've got. And here's the thing, though. In a situation like what we're dealing with right now, you can't really do that. The courts are still open. You can't just go steal and kill and maim and pillage and do all those things because you're still subject to the same laws as everybody else. If your plan through a disaster is to go take from others, then in incidents like this, you're going to find yourself without. So lesson number two, the 3-day rule is accurate. Now, if you're not familiar with the 3-day rule, what that means is that within 3 days of a disaster or within 3 days of being notified of an oncoming disaster, the store shelves are going to be wiped out. After the announcement of the restrictions that were going to be placed on us nationally during the beginning of the pandemic back in March of 2020, I went to the store 3 days after all of that hit. And for sure, while the entire store was not wiped out, there were entire sections of the store where there was absolutely nothing left. But also you have to keep in mind that this disaster didn't come on like a wave of destruction. We were simply told that our lifestyles were going to change for a while as a result of this. So the ensuing panic was not as if things were going to come crashing down, the world was going to burn. So people didn't just go and empty all of the shelves. It was simply a run to the store as if someone was announcing that there was snow coming. So with the 3-day rule comes the inevitable supply line disruptions. So what you end up with is as people buy up all of one particular item, there is a disruption with trying to get those items replaced because the companies that distribute them are not expecting that everything that they have on the shelves is all going to disappear at once. So it has to be produced, it has to be shipped, and it still has to arrive at the stores and get put out. And nobody really knows how long it's going to take for those supply lines to get back up and running. Point is, when something like this happens, get out immediately and get what you need. Don't wait to see what's going to happen. Go out with a plan that if the supply lines don't open up for a while, that you're going to be okay. You're going to go and you're going to get the things that you need. Lesson number 3 is that people generally don't know what they need to stock up on. This is what I call the milk and bread mentality. Whenever there's an announcement that snow's coming, everybody goes and they gather up all the milk and bread and buy it all up for whatever reason. For example, ramen noodles were wiped out almost immediately after this started, which means that people were panic buying. They didn't know anything about prepping. They didn't know what they might need. They immediately started thinking ramen noodles for whatever reason, and that's what they went after. As a prepper, you can take advantage of that mentality and of that lack of knowledge by the general public. While they're going and they're getting all of the ramen noodles, you can go to other parts of the store and you can get the other things that you need that actually have some value both nutritionally and financially. Go for things like canned goods, dry goods. If you have a place to store it, buy things that can be frozen. If you got deep freeze in your house, buy a bunch of meat, buy a bunch of frozen vegetables, get those things and take them home, get them in storage, and that way when everybody else is out and starts figuring out that those are the things they need, you've already got it. And don't forget about your pets. Get your pet foods, stock up on extra pet foods and extra supplies for them. And number 4, in-demand items will change with every scenario. Who knew that in the case of a virus that affects your lungs, that toilet paper and bread making supplies and hand sanitizer would be the things that flew off the shelves and couldn't be restocked? The things that they would have to ration in order to keep people from taking all of them. But the upside is that now we know the specific items that we can prepare for before the next wave hits. As you see them on the shelf, that's the time to get them. So when another disaster is announced, take a minute to think, what is it that you think the important items might be, or the items that are going to go away quickly? You know, if it's something like, say, a volcanic eruption where there's going to be ash clouds that are going to darken everything, it might be a good idea to go stock up on candles and lamp oil and things like that. Also, think of alternate places to get the supplies you need. While everybody else is running to Walmart and the grocery store, go to your neighborhood hardware store. After weeks into the pandemic, I went to my local mom and pop hardware store around the corner from my house. They still had bleach, paper towels, toilet paper, all that kind of stuff, because your typical person doesn't think about the fact that those kind of stores carry those kind of items. Also, go to your liquidation clearance stores, go to Big Lots, go to Bargain Hunt, go to those kind of places and try to grab up the things that they have before everybody else starts to figure it out. Don't forget about Dollar Tree. They have paper goods, they have toilet paper, they have other things that you can get, and just hit that before the rest of the world starts to think, hey, I forgot about Dollar Tree, so I'm going to go there next. Number 5 is an unfortunate thing that I've learned, but it's that people are going to be pretty selfish when it all comes down. We're talking both in general and when it comes time to get supplies. How many stories did you hear over the last few months where little old ladies and families couldn't get the paper products that they needed because there was some jackleg that was loading up cart after cart after cart full of the stuff whenever it was there and buying everything that they could get their hands on? Now, don't get me wrong, there's still going to be kind people out there. They're just going to be harder to find. There's a certain amount of selfishness that comes when a disaster hits, and it's harder and harder to find people that are going to help you out. Set yourself up for success. Don't rely on the kindness of others, because it's not always going to be there. Number 6, disasters will piggyback on one another. We saw that in force this year. I mean, we started off the year with COVID. We had wildfires. We had riots. We had hurricanes. We had an election. So never let yourself become complacent and start thinking this is as bad as it can get, because it's never as bad as it can get. Number 7, it takes longer than you think to get past it. We all figured that this would be something that would be gone in a few weeks to a couple of months, and it's still sticking around. In fact, it's coming around stronger than it was before. So what you're going to find is that your expectation of things doesn't really have a scope of reference for exactly what we're dealing with. And nothing is going to pass as quickly or as easily as you hope that it will. It's going to be politicized. I don't know that we could politicize the COVID pandemic any more than we already have. It's become silly. Look at the relief packages that are coming out. You know, this is the second wave of relief packages, and it took the better part of a year to get that to happen. Politicians could not come to agreement to give us back some of our own money to those of us that are having a hard time getting through this. You know, this is about getting money back to the American people so that they can get by. And yet every politician is putting in their special interest packages in it, which is what's causing it to keep from moving along. I mean, there's always that one idiot that wants $20 million for his program to teach dolphins how to cook. And people are going to engage in risky behavior just to get back to normal. I mean, let's go back to rule number 5. Everybody wants to get back to normal, and in order to do that, they're going to start pushing aside the reality of their situation, and they're not going to think about that when they want to go out and have fun. And that's just going to make it drag on even longer. So finally, that brings us to rule number 8. Your supplies and your stockpiles are going to go away faster than you thought they would. As you start using your stockpiles, you're going to start noticing how quickly it all goes away. If you have a family of 4, and as they use up your toilet paper supply, it's going to go a lot faster than you thought it was when you were setting up your stockpiles. So one of the things that you can do, given that this was kind of a soft apocalypse, you can still go out and you can get the supplies that you need before you start breaking into the stuff that you're stockpiling. Go to the store while there are things like toilet paper and foods and meats. Grab those items up as you can before you have to start breaking out things like your dehydrated meals and stuff like that. Give your family at least a little bit of normalcy as you move into this thing. If you think you have enough, you don't. Keep going. Keep stocking up. Keep buying the supplies that you're going to need. And my advice to people when it comes to the overall concept of prepping, if you are not one of those people that has a bunch of expendable cash laying around, here is how you start setting up your preps. Buy some kind of prep item every time you go to the store. If your family needs toilet paper and there's toilet paper at the store, buy 2 packs. Put one of them in storage and one of them in the cabinets in the bathroom. Then when that toilet paper goes away and you have to go buy more, don't get out what you have in storage. Go to the store, buy another pack of toilet paper or 2, and then put one of them away. Same thing with canned goods. Buy your canned goods and then buy a few extras to put in storage. Get a few dollars worth of stuff at a time. If you faithfully do that every time you go to the store, your stockpile is going to grow. You don't have to have a bunch of money to throw at it all at once. All you have to do is gather a little bit at a time. So those are the lessons learned during the COVID pandemic of 2020. What lessons did you learn this year? I'd really like to see some discussion in the comment section down below of the things that you picked up on and maybe ideas that you developed as a result of seeing what was going on this year. Always remember that knowledge is your best prep. If you can't learn as you go, all the preps in the world are not going to save you. So do us a favor here with our channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Also leave a comment down below. Let that YouTube algorithm know that you're enjoying these things and help us out a little bit. It requires no effort on your part. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it means a lot to us here. And it means that we're going to keep making videos like this one and trying to help people through these tough times. So for now, I'm going to sign off. And until I see you again, remember to prepare for the world that you live in, not the one you wish existed. See you next time.